Recording from Cincinnati, Ohio. My name is Austin Fluman. With me as always,
Anthony Gorman.
And this is the P-Funk and Fro Show, your weekly podcast for adventures, cool stories, and interesting people. This week's guest is the one and only Dave Thomas. Anthony, what did we talk to Dave about? What a doozy of an episode this was.
It was a really good one. I really enjoyed it. I mean, the first thing I've written down is just in your face. Has he always been that way or not?
Yep.
So we went through how that was kind of like developed, and just this is kind of like how his persona came to be. Basically.
How he became so blunt.
Right, yeah. Dave, why are you so blunt? We talked about job transitions, his earlier working life, and the lessons that he learned from that. So Dave's just like chock full of lessons, so it was really great.
A lot of life experience.
Right. And work-life balance and family experiences. Again, it was kind of like getting to know Dave.
Yeah.
And where he came from.
Yeah, a lot of great advice in this next episode. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Once again, DJing the Flying Pig Marathon on May the 7th. It's a Sunday. Come by the P-Funk and Fro booth. Going to be a big banner. Potentially Snapchat filter.
The banner looks wonderful. Good job, Austin.
Thanks, Anthony. I appreciate that. Yeah. And with that, we hope you enjoy the episode. All right, Dave, welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 50. It's a special.
Wow.
This is like,
50. Check that
50. We've been doing this for a long time now.
Right.
A long time, huh?
It's been almost a year. Do you remember when we started podcasting?
I don't remember. I don't know. No, not really. I know you asked me to come on. I don't remember when the first one was, but I don't know when y'all actually started.
Yeah, it's funny how we've just transitioned into the guys that podcast really quickly.
Yeah,
That's just like what people think about now. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really not that old. It's like a year old.
But wasn't he? He was an early guest. I feel
it was an early guest. I think your first appearance was 16.
You're saying, I don't remember.
15 or 16.
That's early?
Yeah.
Out of 50? Come on, that's not early.
That's earlier than I.
Yeah.
That's a long time ago.
It felt early.
That's what I guess I'm just thinking like, wow, that was a long time ago.
Then I lost my pep and my kick to the curb, and I'm coming back up these days.
Yeah, we were like, we've exhausted Dave. Let's move on.
Screw that dude. We don't need his ass here anymore.
We can shoot him up and spit him out. Get away from me.
Dave, you know that's
even
not
at
true.
work. I know enough about you. Please leave. No.
No, Dave, you know that's not true. One of the reasons why we like to have you on is unexpected conversations like the one that just happened, and I'm sure the ones that are about to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've got prepared topics. That's not exactly what we're going to be talking about.
Well, yeah.
Huh, okay.
And that's the alert.
Good to have a framework.
It is good to have a framework. So first thing I want to talk about, Dave, you've given me a lot of advice, both personal and professional, throughout my career at P&G. You've seen me evolve as a person. So I feel like one of the things that we can do on this podcast is kind of talk about different things that people usually ask for advice about. So
people don't like. There's a lot of times people don't ask for advice. It's kind of like one of those things. Some people, once in a while, you can get to open up and say something, but a lot of people don't say much.
So why do you think that is? Do you think they're afraid to be judged, or do you think they just don't want to hear what people have to say?
A combination of both, as well as people
think they already know what they need.
Well, no, because people are kind of like, I don't know the right words. It's like, I guess, don't want to let people inside of who they are. Don't want to really open up to people and just anyone, and then just therefore say nothing to no one.
That's very true.
You think that's like in general, like just family members, or like just Dave? Like, here comes Dave. Close up the hatches. Dave, nothing happened to me last year. Nothing.
No, it's pretty much everybody. I mean, most people are that way. Because the funny thing is, because as before we got on here, you were asking me a question, but one of the interesting things is, which you all look at me like I'm crazy and say whatever, and people listen to me like, yeah, that's not possible. Yeah. But I've always been an absolutely quiet person, stay to myself most of my entire life. What's
Impossible.
that?
Impossible.
He said impossible in Spanish.
I actually I get anyone I went to school with, anyone who's known me for the majority of my life would tell you, I have always been to myself, quiet, don't say anything, do my little thing, mind my own business. Yes.
That's so interesting. I feel like the people that we work with would be surprised by that because you seem like, in the best way possible, you're always the person that speaks his mind. That is the first one to say when he has a problem with something.
Well, it's interesting because as you asked the question, is the majority of the time I didn't say much to people, period, and I kept everything to myself and just dealt with everything on my own until it was one of those things to where I had enough, and then I would when I had enough, I would just let you know, and I would just let you know with no holds barred, and you knew absolutely how I felt, and everybody's like, "What the hell just took place?"
Yeah, it doesn't matter who's in earshot.
Yes, and like I said, and when they got it, they were like, "Wow."
Okay. So you would just kind of like keep things to yourself until it got to a point
to where I had enough, and just kind of like, you know what, I had enough of you, and then I would just tell you from one thing to another, and just let you know from top to bottom just why.
Do you
You
think
in particular, yeah.
you as the
in
listener?
particular, need to get out of my face.
So do you think, is that how it is now, or is that how it was in your past?
Elaborate.
Okay, the fact that
I
you
thought
said
you were talking about your past, where you would just bottle things
Well,
up
I asked him.
until...
I asked him to elaborate. So I want to before I answer. I want to understand. Make sure I definitely understand the question.
Okay, yeah. So you just said usually, or in this situation that you're talking about, you kind of keep things to yourself, don't say anything until it gets to the point where you've had enough, and then you talk to the person. Is that how you are now, or are you talking about kind of your past?
Well, pretty much for the most part, it's both.
Okay.
The
Gotcha.
past and current, because
Gotcha.
I really don't say a whole lot. I just kind of like do my thing, and like I said, and if I feel as though I can benefit a person or people or organization, then I will say stuff to people to try to make a change, to try to make to influence something to be different. However, I won't keep repeating myself over and over again because I'm just wasting my breath. I'm one of those ones that,
Okay.
you know, my breath is valuable. I might need it for another time, and ain't no sense in wasting it type deal.
Yeah,
No, that makes sense.
I definitely feel
Yeah,
that
why
too.
spend the energy on a lost cause?
Yeah,
You know, if you've given it due diligence yourself. Yeah.
agreed.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Shut
that's
up, Dave. I see you looking at me. But no, that's good because it sounds like you're always doing it for the well-being of others.
As I said before, and as I told Austin on many different occasions, my whole thing was for my entire life. And it's funny because I don't know why I was thinking about this the other day, but something hit me the other. Oh, I know why. The other day, and it was one of those things to where everything that I've ever done in my entire life has always been a fight. Everything I've had to literally fight for absolutely anything I've ever wanted to do. Period. And that's because of I'm not here to get in question society, people, things. I'm just telling you.
Sure.
And like I said, based on just the way the world is, everything I've ever wanted to do, and anything I've ever wanted, I literally had to fight not one, not two, but 3, 4, 10 times harder than any other person to get anything I've ever wanted to do.
Wow.
I've had to overcome way more than other people had to do just to get the things I wanted. And even then, as Austin talked about before, and way back in the beginning when I was doing stores, I literally had to prove myself 10 times over and over again to actually get the opportunity to actually get my first store and actually get that chance to do it. And then once I did, it was just kind of like, holy cow, and all the stuff that I did, because I'm not a regular traditional person. I don't do things like the book says to do things. I do things my way.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like you learn and you look and watch and see how things go. And then I take the proactive road, whereas like managing stores, most managers work daytime, 7 to 3 o'clock, 8 to 4.
Yeah.
No, I worked at nighttime. I took 2 to 10, 2 to 12, 2 to midnight. Actually, because that's when more stuff happens, more stuff takes place in stores that were like,
What
you know,
stores?
Yeah,
Just a
elaborate a little
refresher.
bit on the stores.
convenience stores. You know, like your around here, it would be like your UDFs and
Okay,
something
so
UDF,
like a
UDF
locally
type thing.
owned convenience store?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I worked at many
I
like
guess I didn't
7-Eleven
really
and stuff
know
like that. Yeah.
I kind of remember you mentioning it, but I didn't. Yeah, we just like touched upon it.
So most of the time, most of your issues and problems happen at second shifts and third shifts, not during the daytime. So when I was manager, I worked
Oh, I
second
see.
shift, and they're like, "No, you can't." And I'm like, "You can't tell me as long as my store and even my supervisor, I'm like, as long as my store does what it needs to do, gets the results it needs to get, how are you going to tell me that I can't do work when I choose to work?"
You're right, because during the day in convenience
makes
stores
sense.
is the boring time.
Yes.
I would imagine.
Yes.
Because all the crazy crap.
So I made assistants happy. So I'm like, well, y'all can work day shift and I work other ones. And they're like,
yeah.
Are you serious? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. You do it day shift. I'll take the rest of it. And that's what I did. And then when I got done, I had no results. No problems. I had all kinds of big results and all kinds of things. And they always ask me, well, how come you don't have the problems that people do? Because I don't. And one of the biggest things that I talked to Austin before was I'm a people person. One, it's funny because I'm going to say these things and people are going to think I'm insane, but I love people to death, but I also know people are crazy and I hate to say it, but stupid, but and love drama, and that's not me. I don't like drama. I don't like chaos. I'm just one of those people. Just let me have a happy, boring life, and I'm okay with that. So I'm going to tell you how I feel, but I'm also going to take care of people. So therefore, when I worked in stores, I managed stores and I took care of my people. If they needed stuff, took care of them, make sure try to work with them. If people needed to be off, and even if I really couldn't afford it, I'd afford to have them off, I'd work. And they're like, well, who worked? Well, I did. Well, why did you work? Because no one else did. Somebody had to do it and whatever else. And most of the people, because of the relationships I had with them and like I said, I try to take care of people, they were like, well, I'll come back and take care of you another time. And people were like, yeah, right. And they literally would. They would come back another day. Well, you go ahead and go home. You took care of me the other day and stuff like that. So, yeah.
So a couple follow-ups. You talk about how you don't have any time for drama. People are crazy. People are
Yes.
stupid, quote unquote, but you do go out of your way to try to develop people that you think that you can help along the way.
Well, as I said, because I've had to fight for everything my entire life. So therefore, it's like one of
Yes.
those things. I try to make it to where if I see stuff that other people who show they want to do stuff, have potential, want to get stuff squared away, I try to make it to give them pointers and give them tips and give them things that I've noticed that could possibly help them. And I'll try to point it out, show it to them. I'll repeat it several times to try to prove the point, to not to say I'm right, but to prove the point so they can actually see it if they didn't see it before. Because of course, people don't believe stuff unless they actually can see it and understand. And then I'll try to go from there and see if I can do anything to help them out in the process. So it's about trying to make it easier, making roads easier for other people, because mine has never been easy. And it's just like one of those things, trying to do something I didn't have for others.
How long were you a store manager?
Altogether, in actual, the number one at the manager stores, it was like 6 years, but I was actually in retail running in stores for probably like 12 years,
wow.
13 years.
Wow, that's a huge chunk.
That is a long time.
So, before P&G, I only knew retail. That's why I was like intrigued by your store management thing. And actually,
funny is I miss it because I actually mess with people every day. Because different customers, regulars come in every day, and I'd harass people and mess with them. And pick at them. So I just in the regulars to see you, and you have a good old time. So yeah.
I miss it too. And I kind of like how you were talking about the management style, of where you like empower the people, and then watch them go. Like I never really had like cliche terms for that, but it was always like, hey, if these people like me, like shit gets done, way better, and
Yeah.
So
but even then, as we've talked before, it's just kind of like some people want to rule and want to try to get people to follow by trying to browbeat and running people
just
over and then forcing stuff down people's throats. That doesn't work. It's about getting trying to find common ground, trying to get people lead by influence, not by being a ruler or dictator. That doesn't work very well.
Agreed. Yeah. Definitely. So when you talk about these situations where it's never been easy for you to get what you want or get where you want to be, do you want to elaborate on that a little bit? Do you have any specific situations that...
Anything. Like I said, even like the store. Like I said, I was an assistant for 12 different managers. I had to be an assistant for 12 different people, and I did the job better than them, and other people got the jobs before me just because of who I was. And like I said, there was many different factors in that. So like we talked about you, as you talked about you're 22 years old in the process, and like I said, I got my first store when I was 22. And even then, one of the biggest barriers, the simple fact is I was young, and because you're young, you're not going, you don't deserve to do this. Why?
Yeah, I've definitely dealt with a lot of that too.
It's like, okay, just because I'm young, what's that mean?
Any like specifics? Do you think like people that were under you would be like older in that sense?
I've had many people like that.
Yeah.
And I actually had one when I opened a brand new store that the older lady's probably like 55 or something years old, and she's pretty much, everyone else pretty much had done pretty much what I was asking when I was teaching and training and working with everyone, because I've always been a trainer my entire life. That's what I said. I don't know if people know that or not, but every job I've been a trainer, like I said, because I usually can get through to people. Sometimes that's being dramatic fashion to make you get a point across. Yeah. But most cases I get through people. There's only been a couple people, literally only a couple people in my entire life I haven't been able to get through, and this lady was one, and she was just kind of like, I'm 3 times your age, and I'm not listening to you, no matter what you have to say. And
that's hard for some people to get over. Yeah,
and I know the supervisor really well, and this is what we do, and I'm going to do what I want to do, and I'm not listening to what you have to say. And I was like, well, you're in my store. She said, I don't care. He's supervisor. I said, okay.
Dang.
I would love to see a Dave's throwdown.
Well, she got one.
I'd open up popcorn and be like, I'll pay for this later.
She got one because I called the supervisor, and I said, okay. She's you need to put her in another store because she's not working here anymore. And he was just like, what do you mean? He was just kind of like, that's where I have her, so that's not working anymore. And he's like, yeah, she is. It's okay. We have a choice. Either she's working here or I am. If she's working here, I'm not. I'm done. So you make your choice. Either she's working here or I'm not, because I'm not dealing and tolerating her. I said, just because I'm a younger person and she doesn't listen to what I have to say, that's her choice and her prerogative, but I don't have to deal with it.
And I'm sure she's had complaints in the past, I would imagine. So
he just pretty much comes to me and tells me I can't tell him and threaten him. I said, well, I ain't threatening you anything. I'm just telling you, either she's working here or I'm not. This is my store. And I said, you may be the supervisor, which, yes, you're my boss, but this is my store. My name is on that door. That's why I said, at this point in time, either she's going to do what I ask her to do or she's not going to be here. And she's already made it perfectly clear, so therefore she's not going to be here. So you need to move her somewhere else. So we had a long conversation, and I was just kind of like, you can say what you have to say. Bottom line is she's not going to be here. And she's gone. He didn't like it, but in the end, I was like, hey, whatever.
So,
go ahead.
No, did she leave?
She left.
Okay.
And they moved her to another store. And it was funny because in the meantime, I got a couple other people, and I worked with a couple of people and trained a couple others. And one of them was like, we had different tiers. There was like managers, assistants, and then like a third person. We had different, and
like a key holder or something? Yeah.
And we had a couple people that were third people. And when she went to class for her assistant, one of the other people was a third person. They went, and I asked my supervisor to make the other one an assistant as well, and he wouldn't do it. He's like, well, no, we'll let her start out, and she can do it later. So when they got there and class was going on, the third person was only 5 weeks, but the assistant was 10.
Yeah.
So when it comes up, the person teaching the class was like, "What are these in for? Are all assistants or small third people?" And I said, "Well, 2 of them are assistants, one's a third." And he's like, "Which 2?" And I was like, "These 2 are assistants, the other one's a third." And so she got to finish the class anyway. And he's like, "How did you get her to do 10 weeks of class?" And I was like, "They asked me," and I told him. He's like, "Well, I told you no." And I was like, "I don't remember that. I forgot all about that. I don't remember that."
And this all happened before she got moved.
So
Forcibly moved.
then after she got moved and she left, the other person's already an assistant. So I was like, "See, I already got my other assistant. We're good. I'm set."
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So when she left, about a year later, this
Was
other
she
lady,
confrontational when she left?
she was just pretty much, I'm not going to tell her what to do, and I'm not, let alone age was one factor, but there's other things, another
But
factor.
like, did you tell her? I'm just wondering how. Like,
Did I tell her
because
what?
you're already like at each other's throats. So like, did you have to tell her like, "Hey, you're getting transferred"?
Well, no, I just
or
pretty much
what?
told her before I told her, I said, in the meantime, I was like, I called her in the office. When I called him, I said, "Okay, well, do you think he's going to take care of you?" I said, "Well, we'll show you." And I was like, I went in the office and I told her, I called him on the phone and I said, "Well, she's sitting here in the office right now. She's not working for me anymore tonight. I'm going to work the rest of her shift.
Oh, shoot.
And you are moving her somewhere else."
Oh,
And
that
Wow.
happened really fast.
So that was immediate.
he was
decision
like,
then.
"Well, no, she's not." And I'm like, "Yeah, she is." I said, "Either she's going or I'm going. And if I go, I'm not coming back."
Wow.
That's your choice.
So at what point when you're having conversations with people do you think it's acceptable to decide this person's never going to listen to what I have to say? It's not beneficial to deal with this person anymore.
Well, that's because there was different instances in the past where she just refused to listen, and I took the time, and like I said, she was an older person, which was fine because I worked with many older people, and I've gotten through to many different people in different ages. I've never had a problem with any age range, and we just no matter what, she would just constantly fight. So I was putting her on night shift because she wasn't learning, she wasn't picking up, she wasn't doing it, she wasn't trying to show she was going to do anything, and I was just like, well, I can't do much with you in the first place.
Yeah, it sounds like a personality trait.
Well,
Honestly.
and that's what's
After
so,
over and over again.
So at this
does,
point
yeah.
in time, I was like, you just made my decision up for me. And when I got rid of her, the interesting thing is she went to another store and the other manager had the same
Said the
opinion
same
that I
thing?
did afterwards.
that.
Yeah, what do
But
you know?
the interesting was she called me a year later and was like,
Really?
I apologize for where we were and I should
Wow.
have never left because based on what I did, I have gotten nowhere. And if I stayed there and just took the opportunity to learn from you
damn.
as I told you, as
Yeah.
you were trying to help me, I would have been much better off. And I kind of like,
yeah, what
are
was
you the same person?
Did you just hang up on her?
And I was like, are you really the same person? Are you really, is this really, I mean,
No.
and she was like, she's not learning my lesson. I said, I did nothing to try to help you. And a couple other people pointed out to me, because one lady who went with her class for the 10 weeks, she was like, he's only done nothing to try to help you. He's only tried to help you get where you want to be, help you get stuff that you wanted to do. And you just wouldn't listen and you just fought him tooth and nail every step of the way. And he still tried to get through, but you
Wouldn't do it.
threw the challenge down by saying, I know the supervisor, we're really good buddies and I'm going to do what I want.
Yeah.
You're
Wow.
not going to call me on the carpet.
So
Yeah,
what made you
doesn't
ultimately
sound-
leave that company in that position again?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, I worked 100 hours every couple weeks, 100 hours a
Holy
week,
crap.
100 hours a week.
oh my goodness.
Jesus.
During some months, and then average was like 75 hours a week in the process because a lot of stuff had to get done and people coming and going and a lot of issues and problems and stuff. And I had done a lot of different things, and I actually had asked to go to another store after I had proven stuff and accomplished stuff and several other ones. And when I asked, they told me no. And they were like, because this is where we want you to be. And so they actually gave the store to someone else who had just started and didn't have a lot of skill and knowledge. And it was like a really big store and a high volume. And you could really get a lot of stuff done.
Yeah.
And I felt as though I deserved it because I'd proven it. I've done everything they asked me to and more. And then it was just like, no. And I was just kind of like, is this your final answer? And it was like, well, yeah. And I was like, I don't agree with that. I mean, I just don't agree with that. I said, after all the stuff I've done, and it's like, well, because in the meantime, the supervisors make bonuses off you.
That's what I was about to ask. So is it based on sales?
All
Bonus sales?
that stuff, and then the supervisor gets bonuses off you. So I went all around his area, cleaned up all his place, and he's making all this money off of me.
Off you, yeah.
And he's profiting big time. I mean, I
kinda
made
like that at
decent bonuses. I mean,
Walgreens.
I'm not
Really?
gonna lie, I made decent money, but he's profiting off me and all the stuff that I did.
Right.
And I'm like, I give you all. Now it's time for you to give me what I want. I want to stop, and that's what I want to
Yeah, it's
stop
only
moving
fair.
around.
Right,
And it was
yeah.
like, well, no, I can't have you stop moving around. I need you to keep going, and I can't give you the other store because then you would stop, and I can't. I don't want that to happen.
That sounds like yes.
Well,
So I was just kind of like, okay. And I just kind of looked at him and I said, well, I think if that's the case, then I'm done. And he was like, you can have my notice. It's in 2 weeks and I'm giving it to you now and I'm done.
Oh, shoot. You didn't have anything backed up?
Yeah.
And he
did
was
you-
just, no, I didn't.
Wow.
And I'm one of those ones that I believe in and you have to have things lined. I was like, no.
I was going to say, you've given me
Yeah,
that
so
advice
this must have
recently
been-
a lot.
and I was just like, okay, well, you have my 2 weeks notice. And he just laughed and he's like, yeah, okay, whatever. You're just saying, it's okay, fine.
Yeah.
So
wow.
I worked and then a week later and I was like, he comes in and I was like, well, you got a week left and I'm done. And he just kind of looks at me like,
Oh, he didn't believe you?
well, no, because I still when I leave, I'm not going to change the way I do things. That's just some one of those ones.
Right,
I
yeah,
make sure I
start
take care of my
slacking.
stuff. And I was like,
That's good.
and he was just kind of like, okay, whatever. So the last
He was
week
probably
came-
like, oh shit.
Yeah, so
And
last
Yeah.
week
he was
came-
like, oh shit, Dave's gone.
Reality
So
setting
last
in.
week came and I was done and he was an assistant was there and she was actually home and she's coming in for second shift and I was just kind of like okay and I said I need to come back for second count the safe and she count that one. I said okay, go ahead, count the one in front. She said okay and I was just kind of like okay, here's my keys and she's
Oh,
like
damn.
you're serious? So I said I told y'all 2 weeks ago. She's like yeah, I know you did, but I said you thought I was joking, but I'm not. I said so here you go. Here's my keys. Here's the store keys and everything else. And I said you can call and tell your supervisor when I'm done. I'm gone. I'm done.
And he gave you your notice.
And I was just kind of like, I'm done, and this is it for me. And I said, so I'll stop by and say hello different times, and that's
Yeah.
pretty much it.
Wow.
And of course, Dave, he thought I was joking, and then he come Monday calls me and says, okay, you ready to come back down? I was just like, no, I'm done.
Even after you left.
And it was like, well, we'll give you this week vacation, and you go back next week. And I was like, no,
That
I'm
was
not
your
coming
perk?
back.
My goodness.
Oh wow! So they were like, "We'll sweep this under the cover, or
Yeah.
the rug, but just come back, please." That sounds like they were like, "Dave, please come back."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you think they didn't believe you when you said you were leaving?
Well, because who believes somebody after someone's done all this stuff for you and accomplished all these things in the process? And then, I mean, I said, I asked for something. I've done everything you asked me to do. And now I'm asking you to let me stop and you decide not to. So I was just kind of like, no.
And
So
that
where
was
did you
shock.
jump from there? I'm just curious. Like that would freak me out. So I always have to have something lined up. And like people in college that I lived with would just be like, "I'm quitting," and I'd be like, "No, please just line something up." It would like make me nervous for them.
Where am I at now?
Oh wow! So you hopped to the
The interesting
The
thing was
G.
I came to
PG.
I came to PG as a contractor. I just came as a contractor driving a fork truck. I never driven a fork
For
truck.
plant.
Really?
Yeah, I never driven a fork truck in my life.
I love driving a forklift.
And I got hired
sounds
by
fun.
one of the contractors
It
to
is.
drive a fork truck that was in P&G. And
Yeah.
I came in as a contractor. And when I was here for like 2 months. And P&G started hiring. And I put in an application for it. And there was like 350 of the temporaries, people who put in for applications and
damn.
interviews. And I was the only one they hired.
Whoa!
Wow, that's
Because
crazy.
did you put on an application like very specific, like literal things?
Yeah, well, it sounds like
What's
you had
your work
all this experience. Yeah.
More than everyone else. Like just put down. Like, they'll be like, we need to interview this guy. Who is this guy?
You put your boss as a reference, and he's like, "We still want him back."
yeah. Doesn't matter. They want me back.
That must have been a drastic change, moving from that management position of 100 hours a week to just kind of like a fork.
It was probably sounds relaxing.
Was that-
I was cool with that because when I was coming in for fork truck, it was like, okay, I know, and I was like, I work Monday through
Yes.
Friday from 3 to 12. You're not
Yeah.
going to worry about calling me. The phone don't have to ring. And I was like,
That
I'm
sounds
good.
relaxing.
I'm good.
Coming from
It
your
does,
7
yeah.
I'm good
hour,
with that.
100-hour
good
work
with
week.
that.
That was giving me anxiety.
Exactly.
Because I was a shift manager at Walgreens, so like just doing that for 70 hours, I was already doing it for 45 or 44.
Insane.
Yep.
Insane. So that brings me
Yeah.
perfectly to like the next thing I was going to talk to you about. I know Anthony have talked about moving to PNG and talking about work-life balance and how it's difficult and how I've struggled with kind of maintaining a work-life balance, not going crazy when I come home and being still stressed in my personal life. So when you were working that 100 hours and even in your job now, like what are the guidelines that you try to follow to try to maintain a healthy work-life balance? Is
Well,
there something you try to keep in the back of your head?
The interesting thing is when people, even though I was working on those hours, when I walked out of the store, if it was 10 o'clock, it was like the store was gone.
Okay.
When I pulled back in the parking lot that morning before it was time to start work at like 5 in the morning, when I pulled back in at like 10 minutes to 5 and I was walking back in the door, I picked it back up. And everybody's looking at me like, how do you do that? And
Yeah.
Literally, I
Yes.
do. So it's like one of
Yes.
those things. It's like a switch. And everybody's like, I can't
Yes.
do that. And it's like, you have to learn to do it. It's like it's not one of those things that just happen. It's like
Yeah.
a switch. You turn it off,
Yep.
you turn it back on. Once in a while, not often, maybe once in a while, you'd have something that would trickle in your head as you and it would hit you, it would think about in the process. But me, I was good at, nope, I'm done. That's behind me. Tomorrow I'll pick it back up and I'll leave that way.
Yep.
And even now at P&G wise, as we do different roles that we have, and like now I can work as much overtime as I wanted to or I needed to. And,
Yeah.
and there's a point that there is more that would be needed because all the work that I have. And I'm like, hey, can
Yeah.
you pick this up? Hey, can you do this? Can you do that for me? Can you do that?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, but I average just pretty much like an hour. I do like 9 hours a day. In the meantime, I probably need to do like 12,
Damn.
but I'm not going to.
Yeah.
I just manage and make sure the stuff that has to get done gets done, and then picks up the rest of the stuff and manage it in 9
you
hours
can.
each day. Sometimes it's 9.5, but it's like one of those things to try to keep a happy balance and balance of it. And even then, it was funny because when I went on vacation last year, one of the times before Austin took over from me,
Yeah.
someone else took over from me, and before I talked to the boss and said, hey, there's a lot of stuff. I got a lot of stuff going on. Need a little bit of help. And they just kind of looked at me. Nobody paid me any mind and ignored me. So I was like, okay. So I just kept managing on my own. But when I went on vacation, when I got back, 4 people were literally doing my job. Because it was like, oh my God, there's all this stuff.
Yep.
And I'm looking at them like, wait a minute.
What have I been
I
telling
told
you?
you I need a little bit of help. And I said a little bit. I didn't tell you anything. I said a little bit. Just pick up a couple things.
Yeah.
And I come back and there's literally 4 people doing different pieces of my job. And I'm like, I couldn't get anything.
Yeah.
And I come back and there's 4 people when I'm gone for 1 freaking week. How's this possible?
Probably because they flipped out, yeah.
And it was just, and from that, that point in time, then it was just kind of like, well, you can get Austin. You can use Austin. Austin's got time. You can give him stuff. And it was just kind of like, oh, so I've gone for a week. You realize all the stuff I have going on and all the stuff that I've been balancing for all this time. And now you say, I can have some help. Right. Interesting.
That's what it took. Yeah. What you said in the beginning was, I completely agree. I think that's the most important thing to keep in your mind when you're trying to balance work and life is when you leave work is over.
Yeah, it's not just the actual time like spent at work, but the mental.
It's over.
It's like you said, that was really difficult for me. And I think that's still something that I struggle with a little bit. I've gotten a lot better at it, but just when I come home, work is not, it doesn't exist.
When you're walking out the parking lot.
Did you have an issue that earlier in P&G?
Oh, yeah. I would come home and I would still think about projects and stuff like that and stress about how I'm going to get this done because it was my first full-time job.
Yeah,
so I would go home and I would feel obligated to think about work at home. Yeah. Otherwise, am I being a bad employee? You know what I mean? Nope. And this is all stuff that I had to learn.
So when you're walking down that hill, getting in your car, you can think about stuff, but as you get to that car, boom,
it's over.
When you get the car,
just drop it off on your way to your car.
On the way. But you want to think about it as you're walking down there. Okay, get my final thoughts, get my wrap up. That's it. There we go.
Did you have problems with that, Andrew?
I guess when I first started, probably my first year.
Yeah.
But now it's like, man, there's no issue with me doing that.
Yeah.
But that's been going on for a while. But it's more healthy that way.
Yeah.
Because I realized
100%.
I think it was one big thing. And then the next day, so we work weekends every 4th weekend, basically.
Yeah.
And you're kind of on your own, and you have to do it. If you mess up, it's kind of like a big deal because you can't really rectify it till like Monday.
Yeah.
That type of mistake. And there was just one real big one where I was just like, it was like 11 trucks I made go at a slower rate than
you messed up 11 trucks shipping between planes.
Which 11 trucks worth of product.
That's
my
a lot.
head is like, oh my God, like what the hell?
What have I done?
It was terrible. It was terrible. And there was literally nothing because we have gates and like time windows where once it passes a certain time,
deadlines.
There is nothing. You couldn't even call up the CEO to get anything done. That type of thing. So I realized that, and it was like Sunday afternoon, and I just
you were still stressing about it.
I was about to say lost it. I mean, I don't think I've ever really lost it in life, but I just remember it consumed my entire day. My entire day. So I worked. I was stressed all that morning. And then the entire rest of the day, like, I'm not talking like, oh, I don't want to do anything, I'm going to be lazy. It was like, I just constantly churning my head, and that, like, where you can almost feel it in your blood that you were, like, unbelievably stressed.
Yes.
You're like, the needle's maxed, you know? Yeah. So that happened, and then I went in the next day, and it was kind of an issue, but it was kind of like, well, we'll just send this here, and they just push the orders out. And I was like, wait, that's it?
That's it?
They're just gonna push the orders out.
Right.
It was because I was like newer.
Yeah.
So I was like,
you didn't realize
just tell Walmart to be like, they don't like it, I'm sure, but like, hey, just get it a day later.
Yeah.
In my head, it was like, oh my God, the East Coast. What are they gonna do without time? Oh my God.
Yeah,
no one's gonna wash clothes.
And that's a perfect.
That was kind of a big lesson. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing is that like messing up. Almost always super fixable, no matter what the problem is. Like there aren't many problems I feel like in life that are completely unfixable.
Yeah, and that was actually a good like life lesson in general. It's like, Anthony, in a week you're gonna still be alive. You're probably not going to be in jail. You're still going to be doing... Yeah, you're not dead.
You're still going to have your job.
You're probably not going to be in jail. You're still going to have your job. All these things are, like, consistent. But once I start freaking out, then I start going through, like, consistency in life. And, like, then you start getting down to, like, number 10. You're like, well, maybe I'll have pizza on Tuesday. And then it's like, oh, well, okay, everything's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
But to get back to to wrap up and bring you full circle.
Mm-hmm.
So to answer the question, to finish the answer to the question is one. Yeah, y'all can sit and look at me and say I'm crazy, but even today at work, because I'm trying to influence people to do some things to benefit themselves, to help give them something that they're missing, something they could help them out, I go and try and call people out to themselves, pull them aside, say things, and try to work things out. But most cases, keep to myself, quiet, don't say anything. When I leave work, I'm boring. I don't do much of anything. I'm just kind of like, I'm here.
You make some really good
You're
meatballs.
not boring. You help build computers, go to Micro Center.
You make really good meatballs.
Make damn good meatballs. You go to New Year's Eve party at certain people's houses during certain terrible games. But we still have good combos.
So now it's meatballs. Nobody knows about lasagna anymore. It went from lasagna to meatballs.
We stopped making
lasagna.
You just make a bunch of meatballs now.
Yeah, but those meatball subs were delicious.
They were so good.
3 of them.
They were so good.
The next morning, I was like, I can't believe I didn't have heartburn.
Yeah.
Maybe it was all the beer.
And you're talking about onions. I don't like onions.
Yeah, but in your batch that you brought to my place, you said there was hardly
It was
any,
it was a
Hardly
little
any
less than
onions.
normal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
a little bit less.
that tastes great.
That's good.
Love it.
That's good. Well, folks, we hope that you've taken that advice to heart. We hope that it helps you. We're going to take a quick break and be right back with Dave Thomas in episode 50 of the P-Funk and Fro Show.
Ah, goodness.
And we're back.
Oh, yeah.
Episode 50, we got Dave Thomas. Served up some good advice, I think, in the first half.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Some good history. Didn't realize his past and things like that.
Were
with
you,
work.
he wasn't here, was he? Was that the one we did when he wasn't here?
The first one you were on?
Yeah.
He wasn't here. He called in.
Oh,
Because
that's
that was
right.
when he was in California.
Yeah.
That's right. Oh,
right, just wanna bring-
maybe that's
like,
why.
Wait a minute. I'm like,
yeah,
wait a minute. That's kind of strange. All right.
The first time Anthony wasn't here. Second time he was.
Yeah.
And then the third time you called in.
Yep.
Right.
That's
Yep.
right. Yeah.
This is the fourth
Of course,
time.
people are sick of hearing me, so don't listen to y'all show
No,
anymore.
I think
Like,
Dave,
forget this dude. We don't want to hear what this dude has to say. To hell with him.
Of course.
Dave,
not.
your favorite.
Boo. Get Dave out of there.
They try to get us off the air. Be like, what? You can't do that. We can literally do it if we get no views.
Yeah.
It's as much as we want to do.
But I do want to go back to your thing here
Sure.
because
Sure.
Okay.
in the process of this, you talked about
Go back to what? Then?
I pulled. I actually went after Mr. Flume over here because in the meantime, I just kind of like as there was like the group of people, there was like 9 or 10 of them in the process, and then just kind of watching people and why things are going.
Okay, you're talking
Plus kinda
when I
listening.
first started.
Yeah. Plus
Yeah.
kind of like listening in the process too. So I have ways to pull stuff out of people. I mean, I
Yeah.
can actually people can resist for periods of time in the process, and most of the time, as I told you before, I can get through to people.
So you're saying like resistance is futile.
Well, not for everyone. I already told.
And
I
then
already,
you do like a Darth Vader
I-
chokehold. I'm like, okay, Dave, I will let you help me. I'm just kidding.
but as I said,
You might be a Jedi. I don't know.
but as
And
I
our
said,
listeners don't know that.
most of the time most of the time you get through and like I said and people start talking whatever else. I mean in the beginning
Yeah.
people are kind of like I don't know, kind
like,
of
oh,
questioning
we're
what is this
losers.
person, what's the person's motive.
Did
What
I
are they
do
really
that?
after? Yes, you
Yeah.
did. Of course you did.
Yeah.
Of course this one was he ignored me quite a bit for a long period of time.
He
And I
loves
was like,
saying that.
F that guy.
He loves
so
saying
again,
that.
so again I just kind of like, you know what, I'm gonna quit wasting my breath. And I said one day I looked at him and said, okay, I'm gonna ask you a question. All I'm going to tell you is be careful what you ask for. I said, so I'm going to tell you. I said, so I'm going to ask you a question. Be careful what your answer is, because whatever your answer is, you're going to get. and he's laughing because I did. I said, so either we can work on this stuff, and I can help you do this stuff, and you're actually going to like listen to some of the stuff that I'm actually telling you, or I can stop wasting your time and wasting my breath, and you ignoring me and not doing anything. So you can tell me, what do you want to do? Because you can tell me, forget it, leave me alone, don't bother me. I don't want to answer any more questions. I don't want to talk about anything else. Or you can say you can do whatever. I said, but I'm also going to tell you, if you say yes, you want to do this, and I still keep going down this road that you're ignoring me and not paying attention to anything I have to say, I'm not going to waste my breath.
Dave, I'm going to have to stop you there right now. There is a movie scene that is almost play-by-play for this. And
Really?
it's
For what?
Morpheus and Neo, the blue
Oh,
pill
Jesus.
or red pill in the Matrix.
How is that?
You're basically sitting there, you're like, you go into a huddle room, the lights go dim, like, Austin's like, what the hell's going on here? And then all of a sudden, you got sunglasses on. Austin looks away for a split second, you got the Morpheus sunglasses on. And then you put out your hands. 2 pills. And Austin's like, I didn't come here to do drugs. And
This
Dave's
is my
like,
first job. Why am I
I'm going to
taking
cram
pills?
one of these down your throat. And you're going to like it. So it sounds like you gave him 2 options. Yeah.
He gave me
You
the
were
option
Morpheus.
to.
And I did. I
Yeah.
was kind of like,
Neo.
I never thought about that.
and I was what? I did.
No, never
The way
thought
he was
that I was in the
describing it,
Matrix.
I literally just started thinking of Morpheus. I
was
was like,
pretty
there's
perfect.
Morpheus. Oh, shit.
Blue pill.
Are we in the Matrix?
And he looked at me and then he answered the question. And I was like, just be careful. I said, whatever. Just be careful. Answer the question.
I was like,
I
I
just-
should probably listen to Dave.
I said, just be careful. Whatever you want. 'Cause
Yeah.
You're going to get what you want. But just be aware that you're going to get what you ask for. That's all I'll tell you.
You're going to get it.
Did it? I did. He just looked at me
Yeah,
like,
no,
he
that's
just-
true.
and-
'Cause
Yeah.
why sugarcoat it and just like be like, this is what it's going to be? So it's either that. Yeah.
Well, again, because like I said, he says he listens, but for many conversations, he can tell you, I said over and over again, I'm like, you ain't listened to a damn word I said.
Like
I
on
feel
the way back
I'm
from the horse
wasting
trip.
my breath.
Like the way back.
And
On the way back from
you at the
vacation.
horse trip. Yeah, that's the same thing. Alex had to sit there and says, well, yeah, just make sure you don't do any
Alex
more of that
wa-
on this trip next time.
Oh,
too.
that's
Yeah.
There's one. Yeah.
For those listening, that's
yeah.
a reference to I went on a trip to a horse race with Dave, and immediately after getting back, I broke up with my girlfriend at the time.
Because he
So
was
now-
asking advice on the way back.
Yeah, exactly.
So then I said it was before you even started dating
Alex, yeah.
But of
Like
course,
the next girl is going to be like,
But when
going on
she
a
was
horse
here
trip.
last time,
Alex.
didn't think I heard anything out of the corner of my ear because, like I said, when I don't usually pay attention to people, but they said for some reason it was like boom, and it was like, oh well, just make sure you and Dave get any one of them conversations to come back, and I get something like that when you get back
Exactly.
from this next one.
but this time, Dave,
Just
did-
like,
hey,
I was like, are you kidding? Did I
Wait.
really just hear what I thought I heard?
this time, Dave, there's an X factor. You got me in there. So
Yeah.
Alex,
Yeah.
Alex, I am going to go to bat for you.
Are you talking?
I'll be in the back seat acting
Hold
like
up.
I'm sleeping.
Wait
Dave
a
and
minute.
Austin will start going
Wait a minute.
back and forth, and then I'll be listening, and then I'm just gonna grab the steering wheel, roll car.
Nothing,
you're gonna
do it.
nothing,
Alex is a fine lady.
nothing of my
Just kidding.
conversations. Nothing of my conversations were telling him to break up anything.
anything.
My question was, what are you waiting for? Waiting does not help
Yeah, yeah,
anyone,
yeah. Agreed.
not
I've had
you or the other person.
Agreed.
So if you feel as though this is strongly as you say that this is not right for you, what are you waiting
Dave,
for?
I am 100% harassing you because I think it's hilarious,
I
and I do not believe any of that's gonna happen this time because Alex is a wonderful lady. So that being said,
How is it being?
it is cool.
Are
Yeah, you
kissing
guys
up?
had that.
Are you sucking up?
Yeah, what's up? What's up with that?
I'm just trying to be the good guy here, not trying to do nothing wrong.
She's not even here. She's like an ad hoc guest on the podcast right
Yeah.
now. She's not even here.
I don't want her to listen and be like, oh shit, Dave's gonna break up my relationship.
No.
She's already said that.
Oh, jeez. But yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, so basically, you gave me a lot of
No, that's
advice.
gonna happen, yeah.
And not because of the advice, but it helped me formulate my decision to break up. So now Anthony likes harassing Dave about
Yeah, so now
making me break up. So we're going on another horse race with Dave in a couple of weeks,
Yeah.
is why it keeps coming up again.
Yeah, he's probably gonna make me get a bumble chick just so I can break up with her. He's gonna be like, let me see that chick. I'd be like,
Anyway, Dave, you have the floor now.
But so in the meantime, I was just like, so it was like one of those things that after a while, like I said, I asked the question. He said he still wanted to go on, and even then we had a couple conversations. I'm like, I still feel as though we're in the same place.
Yeah.
And it stayed that way. But then there was something that happened, and then it was just kind of like it pissed him off.
yeah.
And then it was just kind of like
What did?
I don't remember what it was
Oh, something happened
that pissed
did.
you off.
Okay, got you.
And when at that point in time, then it's like, oh yeah, you told me this. I now see this. I see this. I see it. And I'm like, oh my god.
Okay, so it took
The
me
light bulb went off.
So it took me
Boom.
experiencing all of these problems to realize all the advice that you've been giving me.
So the
Yes.
pill just started kicking in.
So then it was like all of a
Uh-oh.
sudden it was like bam, 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 bam. And I tell you what, interesting was after that point in time, it was a whole different story.
Yeah,
It
that
was
makes
kinda
sense because like once
wow.
someone's like floodgates open,
Yeah.
it tends to be like then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit.
So let's talk about specifically some of the things that you were trying to get through to me. Like, what problems was I having at the time? And what advice were you giving me to combat those problems?
Well, I think he kind of said it is like if you know it's not going to be like a future. Then
Are
you
we?
might as
We're
well
not
just
even
end it
talking
now.
about the relationship
Oh, shit.
anymore. We're talking about work.
Well,
again.
yeah, it was like, well, it was actually work life because I told you as we had conversations, everything's about
Okay.
work and life. It wasn't just necessarily one or the other.
Gotcha.
But it was just like many different things. And Austin's one of those people that he's it's the naive. He wants to be, or he wants to be the. I see the nice in every person. Every person's nice, and everyone has your best interest at heart. bullshit.
That was starting out. I was gonna say that's
and
bullshit.
it's like I'm not trying to tell you to be an asshole. I'm not trying to tell you to be mean to anyone in the process. That everyone does not have your best interest at heart, and people are not going to look out for you. You have to look out for yourself.
Anthony, in your experience, would you say that perspective has changed? Like my perspective in that way has changed.
Oh yeah, so you were a little wet behind the ears earlier on. I mean, that's and then you started just being like, I ain't taking no shit,
Well, that was
and then there was a change.
Well, you took me because that was my next point. Is to he just like wouldn't confront anything, just let people do whatever they want to do and not say anything. It's like, oh no, it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. No, you have to stand up for yourself. You can't just let people do whatever they want to do.
There's definitely people at work that will.
Yes.
Take
100%.
You don't have to be rude.
Need to. They
Everywhere.
just do it.
You don't have to be
that's
rude.
true.
You don't have to be a total asshole, but you have to stand up for yourself. You are not going to keep sitting there, and not while I'm around, and let people just walk over and do and say whatever they want.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
Right.
That's true.
So it was just like there are several different things we were talking about doing. Like I said, it's one of those things. It's kind of like, and he was always to the far left. As I said, just kind of let people do what they want, not worry about things. Everything just rolls off.
Hippy dippy.
Yeah.
And it was just like, you
Super
need to come over
easygoing.
here. You need to come. We need to get off that wall and come. You got to move. So you got to move quite a bit. God, we got to move quite a bit. It's not going to work like that.
Shit, Dave, I must be a failed project then. Because I'm like, I still feel like I'm easygoing, but I feel like I've always been like that.
No, it's not the point because he still needs to go in person. Simple fact is, he's not going to let people just walk all over him.
That's true.
That's like I said. There's a difference. It's not the point that I did. Like I said, I'm
can
not
have a
trying to change
two-sided
you
sword.
as a whole complete person. It's the
That
point
makes
that you
sense.
need to stand up for yourself and not let people walk all over you. You need to let people understand when they're doing things they're not supposed to do, or you don't like, or don't appreciate, and let them just do it. Whereas before, just let them do it, and it's like never say anything. No, you can't do that.
And I remember when I was first kind of getting used to being a little bit more outspoken and talking about what I'm actually thinking, you kind of got scared a little bit because you said I was all the way on the far left, and I went immediately all the way to the other side on the far right, and it made you nervous, right?
People above them. Yeah.
Yes,
Like,
some
I'm
people,
done,
some people was like, I had to pull them in a room one day, and I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
back off.
Too much.
Yeah.
All right, you reached your limit.
Right. But at this point, it's I feel like come towards the middle, and I
Dave
feel
was
like
probably like, oh, I've made a monster.
I've
I
made a
did. I was
monster.
like, what the hell have I created?
yeah.
I told him that in the room
funny.
too. I was like, oh my God, what the
am
hell have I
doing?
done?
Right.
You were like,
I
Austin, like,
remember
F
that.
you. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. That was.
But then I
interesting.
realized
Yeah.
it's only a couple people specific. Everyone else still stayed in the category. It was only a couple people specific to where you could actually hit points and buttons with them.
I have pet peeves like
So
everyone.
yes, so there was a couple things, a couple points, and a couple things you hit, and then I was like, got it. I got the perspective, like I got it.
That and the other thing is, I feel like when people are growing and developing, me included, if you're all the way on the far left on a topic, when you're introduced to a new topic, you immediately have the inclination to go all the way on the far right, and it takes effort and work to kind of think through both sides and find that balance in the middle. It's like that with everything.
And it's funny because everyone thinks that Austin and I, it's always hunky dory. There's anything else. We've had some serious conversations in the room.
Dave, it's impossible to not have serious conversations.
Yeah, no. Trust me. Like I said, because I tell people, don't think this dude has nothing to say and doesn't have an opinion. Is not gonna get with a person. Because let me tell you, we've had some interesting conversations in the room, and he has no problem speaking his mind,
belting it out.
No problem at all. And I was just kind of like, so don't sit there and think Dave's the only one. I said, this dude can get into it.
Yeah. Well, Dave, when you first started, it was like you and this other guy that were the only ones that were like outspoken in like the meetings. So that's probably how that idea in the whole group came up. Yeah.
But yeah, so it was interesting. Like I said, because we've had, like I said, but the biggest difference between all of it is we actually talk and listen to what the other one has to say.
That is
the biggest part because people have problems and issues, but people have a tendency of not listening what the other person has to say. You have to listen what they have to say and understand, and as long as there's give and take on both ends and understanding and trying to comprehend with the message, you're good.
Yeah,
and a lot of people like. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Anthony.
I just did what I was about to say. A lot of people just are like waiting their turn just to talk.
Oh.
They're not really listening.
Okay.
Yeah. So
But even when they do, they don't
true.
say it. They're not really saying anything. They say, okay. I don't want to deal with it, so they say okay.
Yeah, well, because the thing is, like, I feel like people have the inclination to go at bat for their opinion, like they're trying to win a battle, no matter what it is. And it's like their goal isn't to find the best solution to raise all boats. Their goal is to kind of win the argument.
Oh, I know a handful of people. I
and
could probably name. I'm not going to name.
Right. It's just basic human nature, though.
Right.
You know, it's something that you have to work on internally because it doesn't come naturally. I feel
Us
like
for
to most
versus
people.
them. Yeah.
And then the other part
Yeah.
is I was good at, no matter what his opinion was, a lot of times, more so than not, we actually come to the same conclusions or have the same opinion in the end.
Yeah.
But I've actually wanted one of those things to challenge him on his views, because in the
Yeah.
meantime, the simple fact is not because I didn't believe the same he did. It was to challenge him to take
Make
him from
me
one side
believe.
to the other.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
like, I believe in a happy balance, which you have to look at both sides of the equation. You can have your opinion and have where you believe and where you stay. Which is true, 100%. But you still need to see both sides of the equation, because you have to be flexible in what's going on. Because sometimes, even though you strongly believe in something and someone has a different opinion, sometimes you yield to the other person's, okay,
Yeah.
I'll support you. Even though I don't necessarily agree with you, I'll support you.
Yeah.
We'll work this. And then in the end, I can point out to you what the difference is, or you may get enlightened and see something you didn't see in before.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so
But the biggest thing is you have to be able to look at both sides of the equation, not just one.
that makes sense.
There's minutia in everything.
Yes.
So I have a question. So are you also in this role within your family, like your immediate family? Would you say you would do
Well,
this
no, because
for family? I'm just wondering. I never even really thought of that until
that's
you were
funny.
just talking right now.
Well, no, because everybody in my family.
That's
So
a
do you reserve
good
it
question.
for just work people, or is like how would your family react to how you're here?
Yeah, goddamn!
Based on his response right now,
that's funny.
I'd say you
That's pretty
landed
funny,
on
because actually the
something.
funny part is,
Okay.
at one part, I'm just pretty much told I don't say anything. I never tell what's on my mind. I never tell how I feel. And then on the other part is my main family are like, don't ask the question because you're going to get the answer. You may not like it.
Whoa, so they're kind of like, whoa, so they're like a bunch of Daves.
No, no, because because I like I said, I will tell you how I feel.
Yeah.
And one of the instances was like when I was, my sister passed away 2 years ago.
Oh, okay. So
I was back there and going back to the funeral and everything else in the process of that. And well, before she passed away, my younger sister was the power of attorney.
okay.
And there was one of the ladies that was, I don't know what she was. She was something at the nursing home. But when we were trying to decide on what hospice to put my sister in, my sister said she wanted the one that was sick, actually wanted one in particular. So I asked my younger sister, who's a power of attorney, which one it was.
Yeah.
And the lady was like, well, no, you ain't choosing that one. I looked at her and said, who are you? And then then the lady was like, okay, well, she has to be the one to sign for it. And she's trying to get my younger sister to sign for my older sister without asking my older sister, well, she can't make a decision. The older sister can't make a decision because she's in medication. Okay, first of
really?
all, I didn't ask you for your opinion.
Right.
This is a family matter. You had nothing to do with family. So take your business, mind your business. And I said, we'll make this decision. And it was just kind of like, because you keep telling her to sign this piece of paper, and she is not signing any piece of paper unless I tell her to.
Oh, wow.
What part don't you understand? And
Yeah,
I looked at my
exactly.
sister and I said, are you going to sign a paper? No, not to you. Not if you're telling me I'm not going to sign it.
Yeah.
So go mind your own damn business, and we'll make the decision, and then we'll get back to you. I don't know who you think you are, but nobody has to do any decision.
All right.
And I'm just like, like I said, it's not trying to be smart, not trying to be ignorant. But if you have nothing to do with the conversation, don't get in it.
Yeah, it sounds like it goes back to when something needs to be said, you'll say it.
Yes. And that's why I said, and even my stepmom and my dad looked at me and were like, okay. So then something else came up, and my dad walked around and said, I'll take care of it. Because I said, no, I'll go. No, he's like, no, I'll take it. I'll
Dave,
take
you
this.
take a rest.
And he's like, I'll take this. And I was kind of like, okay, that's fine.
So is your dad like this?
No.
Or oh, really?
No, they're all quiet. They're on the quiet side. Everybody's kind of looks at me like, because I'm the outspoken child, is what I'm told.
Okay, that's what I was
we
wondering.
never had to worry about what was on your mind because you would tell us.
Dave.
And it was like that growing up.
But see,
too?
that wasn't always true. Now, when
that's
it
my
came,
question.
like I said, decisions when it came to people, sure. But like I said, it wasn't always true because pretty much where I became an outspoken person was pretty much when my mom passed away. So it was one of those things. Yeah, because I mean,
What age? How old are you?
I was 21.
Okay.
So I was like, well, no, 22. 22 would be 23, actually. So it was like, yeah.
Pretty
so
young.
it was like one of those things to where at that point in time, it was like, you had everything going on and everything was squared away and everything was going well. And then, of course, mom passes away. And then in the meantime, I was also the power of attorney for that.
Okay.
So I'm like 22 years old, and I'm like, okay,
Wow, a lot of
I got to
responsibility.
deal with mom
Yeah.
passing away. And well, before she passed away, I was also the one that could sign her name and sign for stuff and get stuff done. And I was the youngest kid.
That's a
so
lot
I was
of
the second to
stress,
youngest
yeah.
kid. So I'm just kind of like, why me? And I was like, why do I get this? And of course, one of her best friends was there one night when I said that, and she was like, I'll answer that question for you. And I was just kind of like, it was because she knew you could handle the responsibility and you would do what was right.
Yeah.
And it was like the other ones, I mean, they have pluses and minuses, but she was like, she knew that you would do what was right and take care of things that need to be taken care of. And I was like, okay, but I'm still like, why me? But anyway, because it came down in the end, it was like, decision had to be made. when it was because the doctor was like, what happens if we lose her? And it was like my grandmother, grandfather, brother, sister are like, well, you do everything to bring her back. And I'm like, no, you do nothing. You let her go. That's what she wanted. That's what she said she wanted to get done.
Yeah.
And that's what she's going to get squared away. So it was like one of those things of who the hell do you think you are?
Because she didn't want to be like a vegetable or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And it was like, if she couldn't do it on her own, she didn't want machines to do it for her.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, if that's her wishes. Yeah.
And I actually went against part of that because in the meantime, one part, the machine was breathing for her. And I was just kind of like, okay,
technically,
this is not what you're supposed to do.
She's like half robot.
And it was just kind of like one of those things when it was like, well, what do you do? And I was like, well, you do nothing. And then everybody was like, no. And so it was like one of those things. And then the doctor said, okay, I'm the one that can sign. I'm the one that has the right. And I'm telling you, you're doing nothing. So then it became one of those things of who do you think you are?
Family.
Blah, 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 blah. And I was the redheaded stepchild. So you asked the question. It was like it was a turning point for my life because, for example, you had everything was going on. And then, of course, your mother passes away. And then in the meantime of that, I pretty much lost the whole entire family because I did what I was asked to do, and I would make the decision all over again today.
And you were the legal person to do that.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
That's what she wanted, right?
Yes. And that's what I said. I did what she wanted done.
Right.
I did what I was asked to do, and I would do it all over again today. And I would do it over again 100 times if I had to because that's what I was asked to do, and that's what I did. I kind of like didn't follow 100% because I actually let them do one piece that I wasn't supposed to, but I was like, but it was because some people wanted to get here, and I was like, okay, some people need to get here, so I'm like, I can do that.
Yeah.
So then I pretty much, from being 22 with everybody there to 22 when I was pretty much by myself. Because at that point in time, everyone's pissed off. They were madder than hell because I made the decision. I didn't make the decision. She made the decision.
Yeah.
So I was pretty much, not only did my mother pass away, I was by myself. Damn. So it was like, so that was a whole different aspect of life.
Jesus.
So the question I was asking Austin in the beginning.
Yeah.
What was the turning point to where you went from being quiet, not saying anything, and speaking your piece? When my mother passed away, I didn't care. I'm going to tell you what I have to say, period. It went from being I didn't say much, kept things to myself, to where everybody pretty much was gone because everybody was pissed off because I made a decision that was what I was asked to do. And I was like, okay, so from 22 and having everything to 22 and having pretty much nothing and by yourself is kind of like it's interesting part in life that you and you learn different things.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things I've said to many different people, and it was kind of like, no one. You have to love yourself before anyone else can love you. If you don't love yourself, it's impossible for anyone else to do that. So as long as that's the case, forget about the rest. Type deal.
That makes sense.
So it was like one of those things that, and that's why, and it comes to your point about trips.
Yep.
People don't take trips by themselves because they're like, they don't want to be by themselves. They're scared to be alone.
Oh, yeah.
That's not me.
Yeah.
I'll be by myself and alone the rest of my life. That's what it was supposed to be. I'm cool with that. And everybody's like, well, you're just crazy. No, because I don't need fake people.
Right.
I don't need phony people.
Just to have people there.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
So it's interesting because people look at me and like, well, why do you do things? Because I don't get close to many people, period. I don't talk to many people, period. To this day. I just don't. I don't talk to many people. I don't deal with many people just because I know how people are.
Right.
Like I said, and you find out in life too that when stuff happens, even in families, because I said, it's supposed to be about family, but then you find out stuff is like everything. A lot of stuff is tied to money and greed. No matter where you go, no matter how it happens, it really comes down to it.
Yeah.
And most people in families don't find it out until something happens and someone passes away.
Drastic, yeah.
And then they learn the lesson. So all that stuff took place, and that was like the turning points for me. And it was just kind of like interesting. So it was like a world, and it was like an interesting world, and it was like, holy shit.
Sounds like a life reset.
And like I said, so it was like, I learned a lot and through all the stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like, And like I said, from that point forward, it was like, that's how I actually started my trips, because it was like, you know what? Life's too short. I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to make sure that I take care of myself and I'm happy. And I will take at least one or two trips every year. And I have to go one place new every year.
Oh yeah, you did tell me.
And so that was one of those things. It was like traveling was what made me happy and what I enjoyed. So it was like, that's how I started taking trips.
Okay.
That's how I started getting into traveling and doing different things in the process. And from that point in time, every year it was like I celebrated my own, because it was like for birthday and Christmas, if I couldn't do anything else, I always did something for myself at those time frames, whether it was, I don't know, like so a lot of times buying a computer or something else in the process.
Like a personal gift.
Or do something, or
Gift
take a trip. Like I said, it was like a trip or a birthday or around those times. So like I said, every year I'd always travel on my birthday. Birthday was one of those things I travel every year. Or, and like I said, and I would also just get something in the process, and it was like to myself because...
Yeah, it's a gift for yourself.
Like Christmas and birthdays, there was nobody. Because, I mean, I was done. It was like I said, it was just me.
Oh, well, okay.
And like I said, do I feel sorry for myself? Absolutely not. Like I said, I'm cool with that. Like I said, you know what? I will not make anyone have to do anything with me, talk to me, be with me, anything in those parts. And like I said, I'm not here for anyone's sympathy.
Yeah.
Not at all. Like I said, because I'm happy with who I am. I'm happy with what I do. And I don't need anyone else to tell me or to be sitting there beside me for that to be the case. I mean, it's like one of those things. So,
and I mean, even at 21 or 22 when this was happening, it sounds like, oh, you're an adult when you're 18. But my God, like that is like a major like root, rip out.
Yep.
It sounds like like a major life turning point in your life. That's amazing.
And that point in a lot of people's lives is a major turning point anyway.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. A lot of stuff's like you're trying to figure out yourself already anyways. And then, that's crazy. Dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I even had one family member was like, well, you've done everything, that you paid all the stuff, took everything, did everything that your mom wanted to do. Why don't you tell anybody that? I said, because you know what? No one cares. And I don't care. I'm not going to try to force anyone to want to have this, like I said, say anything, want to have anything to do with me. I don't care. I was like, they made their decision when I did what I was told to do and what I needed to do because that's what I was asked to do. They made their choice. And when they made their choice, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't hold a grudge against anyone. I said, they decided they wanted no parts of me in their life, and I'm cool with it. And I said, I've accepted it. I'm cool with it, and I moved on. And like I said, and I'm not worried about it, and I'm fine with that, period. Yeah. So that's why I said it was just kind of like one of those things everybody's like, wow. And so that's why
kind of like going back to that employee you're having like issues with, like, so she called you years later and said, oh, I really should have listened to you, whatever. Mm-hmm. If your family members were to do the same in the future, like, would that be a positive thing for you, or do you think it would just...
I had one. My sister about 3 or 4 years ago actually said something in the process, and it's kind of like I made a mistake, and it was just kind of like I got caught up in all the other stuff than everyone else, and I know from what Mom always said, you were just like her, that wouldn't be the case, blah 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 blah, and it was just kind of like, and I only did based on things I heard, and I was just kind of like, that's fine, you got to do what you got to do. I mean, I'm not going to hold, I mean, I don't hold it against people. I mean, you do what you got to do. I mean, that's your choice.
And how old was she then?
She's 7 years younger, so probably this is like 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh, so she was going along with the family flow, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, at that age, so impressive.
And then she talked about how one of my other brothers or sisters, I'm not going to say specifically, but screwed her over and did stuff wrong, and I was just kind of like, okay.
That's what it took for her to kind of go back.
And it was like, okay. And I was just kind of like,
yeah.
What do you want me to say? I mean, I was just kind of like, I don't have anything to say. I mean, you have to learn for yourself and make decisions on your own. I can't make decisions for you. Mm-hmm. So in the process of that, so like I said, so we're pretty much pretty tight at this point in time. Like I said, but in the meantime, it's kind of like, hey, I force no one. That's why, and people look at me because I'll tell them point blank. And it's funny because even relationships, like I said, y'all talk about them. Mm-hmm. I don't, because it's come down to the end. It's one of those things to where I've had several, and in the end, it was just kind of like, because as I said, I'm quiet. I don't really say a whole lot. Like I said, I don't like drama. Yeah. I don't like chaos.
Yeah.
And I'm not, which you can look at me like I'm crazy, a confrontational person. The difference is there's a difference between confrontational and I don't put up with bullshit.
Yeah.
But because I don't put up with the bullshit and drama, I'm not going to sit there and have all the bullshit and drama around me. I'm just going to tell you how I feel about it, and I'm done.
Stop it.
Yeah. I'm done.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's what I said. I don't get in all that crap because I don't. So I'm cool with leaving a happy, boring ass life, and everybody's like, because I don't need the drama, I don't need the chaos, I don't need the bull crap.
Right.
Just I'm drama free. I'm cool, and that's boring. Cool.
Yeah, I think it's very important though that you confront things that you have problems with, because that's a problem I think a lot of people have is they just let things kind of marinate underneath the surface and don't address it, and then everybody's angry and nobody even knows what the problem is anymore because it's been settling there for so long. I think it's one of the most important things about relationships is speaking your mind, in a good way, in a positive way. Like, I think this is a problem. I think this is something we have to deal with.
Yeah. Well, I'm just told I'm too blunt because even now I just say it. Of course, and they're just like, well, the truth isn't your friend, and I'm like, the truth is the truth. I don't know about thinking about what I told you because I told you the truth. So it's like it's easy because I told you the truth.
Higher than the truth. Yeah.
Well, it's like truth does hurt, and I was like, I understand, but you know what? I can handle the truth. No matter what the truth is, I can handle it.
Yeah.
No matter what you tell me, I can handle it. And I'm just like, because I'm cool with that. Most people can't. That's what I said. People don't like the truth because, like I said, most of my relationships they have, there's like, well, you didn't say much, blah, blah, blah. I said, did I take care of what you needed? Did you get what you want? Yeah, all that stuff. And then you complain and later, like, I made a mistake. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. You realize what you want and you do shit. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm not going backwards. I'm done. Yeah. And the interesting was, and interesting is, like I said, I'm not trying to say I'm anybody special because I'm not anybody special. But it was almost every person, and I was just kind of like, sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like, it's just the case. I mean,
you do you, and then, like
of course, you get screwed over when you try to take care of people, give people what they want, take care of things, you get screwed over. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Right. Done with you.
Remember that? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, okay. But yeah, so you got your answer to your question. Like I said, so it comes down from that. That was my turning point. And that's where I get. But now, even then, I'm still, for the most part, like I said, I know people listen. If there are some of the people are like, yeah, right. I don't, like I said, I say stuff to people because there's some of you that I've actually tried to get to do things, try to bring things out of people, try to help people benefit them. Right. But for the most part, quiet keeps myself. I don't have to say a word to anyone.
That's true.
I don't have to say. I can just be in my own little world. Because he almost looks at me because he's like, you don't say much to me anymore. I just kind of like.
It's true. It's like once you get talking, then it's like, or whatever.
I'm not always going to be the person to start the conversation. Because I'm one of those ones, I'm going to wait and see if you say anything. You don't say anything?
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Say anything. I mean, like I said, I don't have to say anything. So it's kind of like one of those things. So it's like, I'm one of those things. Nothing works a one-way street. Everything has to be a two-way street.
Right.
Yeah.
And then when people understand that, it's cool.
Yeah. Doesn't stop me from coming and asking questions, though, on a daily basis.
And of course, I'd be like, because he'll go do something. And then I was like, who owns that? And it was like, well, you do. I didn't remember you asking me a question about that.
I guess you're right.
And it was just kind of like,
things slip my mind occasionally.
Like, it said if you asked a question, I could have answered your question. Right. It's kind of like,
Dave, you definitely have some good conversational jujitsu. That is for sure.
You definitely do.
And you have good like dramatic pauses and like lean backs. I've noticed. You've got to like if there's like a move, Dave will like pause and like lean back and say, "All right." And then that's when you're now like, oh, shit, he already knows the answer. He's just waiting for me to say it. Yeah.
But even then, it's still one of those things, as I tell people, just because we're not in the same place, may not work in the same area, doesn't mean that I'm a different person. Mm-hmm. So, if we've had conversations and we've talked and we have a relationship, that doesn't change just because we don't work together.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
Because then that comes out because some people have left the area and there was like some different happy hours. And then what you actually see is people don't show up. Yeah. And the interesting about that is my perspective is probably different than others. And people probably listen and probably think I'm an asshole because I'm going to tell you what I said. Because there was times there was hardly anyone showed up.
Yeah.
And I looked and I told the person, don't worry about it. Because the people that are important enough to show up are the people who actually really care. Who care about you and want to make sure they were there for you in the process.
You're talking about happy hours for people that are leaving the department.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Good.
Because then other people are like, well, I have this, or I have that, and I have this, and I have that. And it goes back to what I said to Austin. You make time for things that are important to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, as I said, there's relationships. There's many types of relationships. But you make time for the things, people, whatever they are, that are important to you.
It's crazy how true that is.
Yeah.
So, when they were talking about the other day, when some people didn't go, I had this. Did you tell them? Well, don't call and tell me. I'd have figured out when you weren't here. I don't need you to call and tell me and give me no fake ass story why you didn't show up.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're like, I wasn't gonna say that. I said I would have. And they call and say, well, I had to. I don't need to hear it.
I did
figure out when you weren't coming.
If you ever need a side job, you can start a business. Be like, do you really want to tell off this person? Do you really want to speak your mind? Have Dave do it.
Yeah.
Just you can have your own app. You're like, say this to my mom.
A Dave soundboard.
Stop calling her.
And sure, is that some people would say I'm being an asshole? Sure, you can tell me that, but I don't think so because it's one of those things.
It's called being blunt.
You don't need to call in to give me an excuse.
Right.
If you're going to show up, then I know. Because even then, it was kind of like I made this comment, and I was like, well, I'm sure if anyone decided to have a event and I was going somewhere, we wouldn't have to have one because no one would show up in the first place. And they just kind of looked at me like, what the hell is that supposed to mean?
And that's not true.
I said, but of course,
no,
I wouldn't worry about it. Because since somebody called me and say something, they probably would never. They call and say, well, Dave, I was like, don't even finish the rest of that. Because if you finish the rest of it, you're not going to like what I have to say.
Yeah.
And that's what I said. I'd cut them off in the middle and say, if you finish going down the road, it sounds like you're going to me. You're not going to like my response. And I'm going to give it to you. And otherwise, I'm telling you to stop. Because I'll figure out that you're not going to be there when I don't see you there. That's fine.
Yeah.
I don't need you to tell me and call me and give me some lame ass excuse why you're going to be there. I don't need to hear it. So
I feel like I can speak for Austin and myself.
Go for it.
Saying that, Dave, we would make time for you.
We would.
100%.
We would podcast from your party.
We may bring a microphone and podcast, but we will make time for you.
We will make time for the party. Exactly.
Well, I just laugh because, like I said, I expect nothing from anyone. That's just me. And that's why I just kind of like, that's just me. As I said, I've learned throughout life, and based on life, we go based on our life experiences, how we do things. And that's why I just kind of sit there and I'm like, I expect nothing from no one. I do things just because I want to do them.
Yep. Yeah, well, Dave, we've covered a lot of territory in this podcast.
This is awesome.
This was awesome.
I've hijacked your conversations.
No.
And we've got
you didn't hijack anything. We set you on a path and you rampaged down that path. But that's why we love having you on, Dave. We always appreciate it. Thank you for sharing all of those stories. That was fantastic. We hope all the viewers take that. Yeah. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. We'd love to field those comments and stuff. And I'm sure Dave would love to talk about these things.
That's all right. You'll be like, I ain't listening to that shit no more. Don't bring him back here no more. We're done with him.
No, but always a blast to talk to you, Dave. So is there anything you want to say before we wrap up? Any kind of concluding comments? Final pieces of advice?
My only thing I tell anyone, be who you are.
Yes.
Don't be a person under one circumstance and then be a different person in another circumstance. Okay, now we do have a tendency to, in one environment, you may be slightly different than the other. That's fine. But you can't be a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. You can't be in most circumstances one person and then in other circumstances another. That's not good. You be true to yourself and who you are. And again, the one message that I always say to anyone is people will make time for things that are important to them.
That's true.
I don't care what no one tells you. They can come up with all kinds of stories. They can do whatever they want. The bottom line is, if it's important enough to them, they will make it happen or make it a part of their life. You can't force it. If it's not going to do it, that should tell you something. That should tell you you're not important enough to them. People can say it's not that cut and dry and simple, but it is. It is.
That makes sense.
It is.
Yep. Well, thank you for sharing that, Dave. We're going to end on that note. This has been episode 50 of the P Funk and Fro Show. Thank you all for listening. Joining us on this adventure for 50 hours on the internet. It's always fun. We're going to post new episodes every Friday on iTunes and Android podcast services. Join us. Like I said, Flying Pig. We're going to have a P Funk and Fro booth. Look for the P Funk and Fro banner.
Yep.
P Funk and Fro Snapchat filter up in the air.
Yeah.
Possibly.
I'll be running around. It'll be like 7 in the morning on the weekend, so it might be a little interesting just to see what I'll be doing.
Yeah, we'd love for you guys to stop by the P Funk and Fro booth. I'll be DJing, so we'd love to meet all of you guys. Tell your friends, and
have a free dance party.
Have a free dance party. But until next time, we'll see you guys later.
Later.
Say goodbye, dude.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
That was awesome. And we are brought to you by Zippy Pop. Have you ever been confused whether you want a soda can or popcorn? Well, Zippy Pop satisfies that. And it's only 99 cents per pop. Zippy Pop. Just at least 3 times, blah, blah. I would love to come up with that.
P Funk and Fro Show is brought to you by Leonard Skinner. Do you like your old American classic rock?
And Skinner's?
Yeah. Do you like lizards and Skinnards
and airplane deaths?
I don't know what Leonard Skinner is.
They're dead.
But, really?
They died in an airplane.
All of them?
Yeah.
What?
It's the Anna Leonard Skinner. Well, let me find out. Pretty sure.
P Funk and Fro is brought to you by John Bon Jovi.